In our particular department on the global business side, there's four of us who handle a variety of different industries for Oregon. I handled the wood products, building materials sector, and then also outdoor gear, activewear, and footwear, which is a really interesting combination of products. We also have a trade specialist who handles software technology products. We have a specialist who handles aviation and consumer goods, and then a trade specialist who handles the products related to clean tech sustainability. One of the things about our office that some of you know or may not know is we do have a foreign office in Tokyo, which is a state of Oregon office with Oregon employees there that can provide some of the market research services, some of the one-on-one counseling, helping you set up meetings, identifying buyers, and then also qualifying some of the people that you've been engaging with regard to international business. That particular office, for the most part, is free of charge because it is Oregon employees, unless there's some special type of work that they need to do specific for you that's out of the realm of the basic office work. We also have a representative office in Korea and in China, and we have a representative or a consultant that we have on contract for Europe. One of the things that we've been able to do and has been a template for the organization this past year is we've put together Oregon Outdoor, which is representing the Oregon outdoor sector in Oregon, which has a very large, strong talent pool, and actually is an industry that is not heavily recognized, but is a major player when it comes to employment and wages. Because of the international trade shows in Europe, which are so important to this industry, we were able to launch a program where we put together a localized website, Oregon Outdoor, and then we put together on that website a variety of the Oregon outdoor companies. We've been able to track this year the number of analytics to help us understand better the buying power and industry in Europe for Oregon outdoor gear products. Hopefully, the end of this year, we should have some pretty good analytics to help us with that. I do know that at the show I was at last week, the bicycle Eurobike, we got 2,000 hits in just a couple of days looking for Oregon manufacturers, distributors of Oregon bicycle components and parts. So it has been a successful program that we've been able to launch to help that particular sector. One of the other things that we have available to Oregon companies, and again, some of you have heard of this, but we have Oregon Trade Promotion Program, which is a matching grant program of up to $3,500 for a company to attend some of the international trade shows, to help put together also some of their international websites. Hopefully later on this year we'll be able to bump that up to a $5,000 matching grant. And this is designed to help companies who are in business, who are looking at expanding internationally, or companies that have been doing some international but really want to move forward and understand and get into those foreign countries through trade shows, through web development. In the past couple of years, we've had a program, the State Trade Export Promotion, which Derek had explained a little bit about at the very beginning. This, again, was a program that was a matching up to $5,000. And that really did spearhead a number of companies into the international marketplace. This past half year, with the STEP program for the outdoor gear industry, the current numbers I saw from successful sales using STEP to attend these trade shows was close to $2 million. So we are seeing a very large return on this grant program. I think it allows people to have a little more of a comfort zone. Trade shows are expensive, so $5,000 is very helpful for a company expanding into the international marketplace. So I think that one of the takeaways is that from the state of Oregon on the international side, we are moving forward with grants to help people get into the international marketplace through OTPP and the STEP program. Now, the last thing I'd like to mention about the STEP program is that was a 2-year funded program which expires the end of this month. We do have some dollars left in that particular account, and we've applied for an extension on that to use up those available funds. Unfortunately, we haven't heard back from the federal government yet if they'll allow this. And there's a number of states that are in the same boat with that have a few dollars left over. So we may have available STEP funds to be used over the next year also. If you go to the website, Business Oregon, you can look up OTPP. I think it's on the slide here. This particular program, OTPP, again, you can find online. There's the application through Business Oregon. If you just went on internet and typed in OTPP Oregon or Oregon Trade Promotion Program, it'll pull up the application where a company or individual can fill that out, and then it gets forwarded back to our office, and then it gets forwarded to the individual trade officer who handles that particular industry. It's set up the same way with the STEP program. You can go into the STEP Oregon, and it'll pull up that application. Again, this all gets sent to our main office in Salem, and then it's forwarded on to the trade specialist who handles that. So Oregon is trying and has been working over the past 20, 30 plus years to promote export sales. We recognized that back in the late 70s and mid 70s that this was a way for Oregon to have some economic growth and to expand its industries was by going international. And one of our largest trading partners, both business-wise and culturally, has been Japan. So we have really strong relationships with Japan as a major trading partner, as well as some of the other countries around the world that we've been developing and cultivating relationships with over the past number of years.
I'm with the U.S. Commercial Service. The best way to understand us is if you go to an embassy overseas and want assistance as a U.S. businessman. Embassies have political sections that do political stuff, economic sections that look at the economy, and then the commercial section is really set up to assist companies with doing business in the market. So my local and that overseas presence allows us to contract, basically offer services on behalf of U.S. companies getting into the market, but also provide information like market research coming back. So my website locally is export.gov/Oregon, but if you're interested in doing business in Russia, export.gov/Russia would be what's happening in the market in terms of market intelligence, trade shows, those types of things. Basically, our core services, trade counseling, we talk to companies every day about a full range of things, whether it's market entry strategy, but very much the nuts and bolts. What do I need to fill out a document in terms of a NAFTA certificate of origin? What are the product certification or regulations I need to getting into the market? My colleague who handles medical devices knows not only the US FDA certification process, but how that will translate into foreign medical certification requirements. How do you get into the EU in terms of many of their directives? So it can be basic nuts and bolts counseling from I have 4 colleagues locally that cover Oregon and Southwest Washington from our own knowledge, or the information that we develop from our overseas colleagues as well. Trade issues, products stuck in customs, or a approval needed from the Indian consulate down in San Francisco. That's the kind of thing that we will advise, and we can make some phone calls, see if we can shake a tree loose or shake the tree to get a shipment released. Our core services are business matchmaking. So this speaks a little bit to working with companies that know they want to be in the market, and we're assisting them in identifying agents, distributors. We have two levels of services. One, a gold key service assumes that a company is actually going to be traveling into the market and wants to make the most of the contacts they'll make on that trip. So we do a customized search of potential agents and distributors. Basically, we take the profile of what the company needs, advise them on the feasibility of identifying that kind of partner, and then and then do a search, if you will, of those types of partners that meet that profile. We then send that. We effectively, interactively, will arrange any potential partner that expressed an affirmative interest in meeting with the company. We'll set up those appointments. So it's kind of a rifle shot in terms of going into the market. I know who I want to meet with. I know what their profile is because that's what I've given the embassy to find. And we offer that service not only in terms of going into the market and setting up the meetings, but identifying an international partner search, just identifying who those contacts are and providing them to the company locally. Now those services, because they're customized per company, the Gold Key runs $700, the International Partner Search $550, because we're effectively using a taxpayer-funded resource, if you will, specifically for companies. So that's what involves the fees. Dana mentioned trade shows. Very often companies will use either formally STEP grants or the Oregon Trade Promotion Program to attend shows that the U.S. Department of Commerce, our U.S. Commercial Service, has identified as the best shows in the market. So if you're going to China and you want to be in a certain industrial vertical, I can assure you right now there are 25 shows. Each province decides they need to have 2 shows in that industrial vertical because it's in their 5-year plan. But there's going to be 1 or 2 shows that are the key shows to go to, the most important ones. And very often what we'll try to do is go to the show organizer and put together a U.S. pavilion. So in lieu of spending $10,000 or $15,000 for a booth, you're in the U.S. pavilion, you'll have a smaller booth, but it's only costing you $3,000 or $4,000 maybe to exhibit. And if you add the $3,000 that you can get from the state of Oregon to participate in that show, you're now actually being able to be in the most important show identified by the U.S. Commercial Service, underwritten in part by the state of Oregon, Oregon Trade Promotion Program. So it's how we work together to maximize the benefit for a company participating. Now, not only on overseas shows, but we also do domestic shows. It's called our International Buyer Program. So if a company is going to attend a domestic show, in many sectors, shows like PAC Expo, Infocom, National Association of Broadcasters, these are global shows. They take place in Las Vegas or Chicago. And what we will do, the U.S. Commercial Service will recruit foreign buyers to those shows. And then at the show, we will arrange programs to set up U.S. exhibitors, Oregon exhibitors, with our foreign buyers. So they're not only attending a domestic show that they would have gone to anyway, but they're effectively able to maximize their participation by being exposed to foreign buyers, foreign delegates. It's a way in which they're able to take best advantage of their presence at the show, but still come away with business cards from pre-qualified foreign delegations, if you will. Lastly, market intelligence. As I mentioned, export.gov/country name. We have something called a country commercial guide, which is kind of the overview of doing business in that country. What do I need to know about the politics, what's happening in the economy? We'll then identify best prospect sectors of medical equipment, aviation equipment, what's happening in the market that represents the key sectors that might present opportunities. And then below that, our staff will be producing market research on the different opportunities. So part of what Dana had done in his presentation is, what do I need to know about the market, kind of macro to micro? By going to our websites, you're able to identify what the possibilities might be in that economy. What do some of the numbers look like in terms of trade statistics? Dana also spoke to identifying good partners. We offer due diligence services in these markets. Now, I wouldn't necessarily, our service at $550 is expensive, which means we're running the financials on the company, but we're also sending somebody out to visit the company, somebody from the embassy. So on the one hand, if it's the UK, I would use Dun & Bradstreet. I would use the commercial services because there's a good financial infrastructure. You can trust the numbers that you're reading. If it's Angola, China's getting better, but you may want to have somebody actually go visit the company, be able to give you trade references from the business community. And it represents a service that if a company is a little bit more sophisticated, wants to take a little bit more of a chance in the market, has a partner that they're interested in, potentially excited about, but it may be worth the investment to check them out in a little bit more detail. So that's kind of broad brush what we, out of the Commercial Service Portland, offer. We also do training, as we've mentioned, the one-day programs. We call what I'd call up-market training in terms of export licensing, and ITAR, which is trade in arms regulations, which we do with the Pacific Northwest Defense Coalition. So it's sort of the full range of products in terms of training at the front end, one day, training at the back end, export licensing, ITAR, and then in between a full suite of services to make your company successful. Most importantly, we're happy to counsel with you moving forward in terms of what we offer and how that can best work to your company's advantage. Thanks.
In this section, I want to talk about some services that are available. This is where all the goodies are from Export-Import Bank of the U.S. and from Small Business Administration to help exporters get their financing needs met. So when it comes to financing and trade financing, export financing, what are the three things that an exporter is going to need? Well, they're going to need to be able to offer the most competitive terms possible to their foreign buyers. We talked about that if they can offer open account, that's going to make them much more attractive to international markets and potentially sell more, ask for a higher price, more profitable. And then they're going to be selling lots because they've got these great competitive terms, which means now, wow, they've got a working capital need. They've got all these purchase orders to fulfill. They need working capital. So how do we get that to them? And then as they're selling more, they're saying, gee, we could use some better fixed assets and better physical plant here, maybe a better structure of our company's debt, things that are going to make us more competitive so we can keep going on this export opportunity we've identified. So those are the three things, the three finance needs I think that primarily exporters need. And between XM and SBA, we've got them covered. Okay, offering those competitive terms, that's where the export credit insurance policy comes in. We talked about that, and in the previous session, there are private insurers who provide this kind of product, but the Export-Import Bank of the U.S. sounds like a bank, but is actually a federal government agency. Their mission is to support all U.S. exporters, specifically small business exporters. And so unlike the private credit insurers who do a brilliant job, but also primarily target where they can get scale, and so they want to see exporters that are selling $3, $4, $5+ million in international transactions per year that they can insure. If you're smaller than that, chances are their services are really just going to be too expensive. You're not going to be able to afford that, or it's not going to make sense. XM Bank is available regardless of size. They like to help the little guys. They do require majority U.S. content in the exports that they insure, and they typically will not be able to insure military-related exports, but everything else, they're good to go. And because they are a small agency, work through commercial export insurance brokers and who can work directly with the exporters. Two policies in particular I'll call out that they have. One is their general small business multi-buyer policy, which is a great program for the company that has some export activity. Very inexpensive. Notice that 55 cents per $100 of export sales that are being insured. So it's basically 0.5% that you're adding to your sales price in order to just sell on open account terms. You can build that into your price, cover your costs, and protect yourself at 95% protection against non-payment. And then for the small exporter, for the new to export, well, they have to actually have at least a year of experience in exporting to qualify for these programs. But for those that don't have that scale, express insurance where the Export-Import Bank will actually do the credit checking on the buyers for the company, they only charge 65 cents per $100 on 60-day terms. So it's a brilliant product that's perfect for the small exporter, the company that is doing a little bit of exporting, less than $7.5 million a year in exporting. And then, okay, working capital. You need money to fulfill all these export orders. So you go to your bank, and your bank is going to say, well, you know, these export sales, we're not so sure. We want to be lending against them, and we think it's great you're doing it, but there's too much risk associated with this. We may not be so excited about providing the financing for those export orders. That's where SBA and XM come in, and we say, hey, bank, please chill out here. There's a great opportunity. We can provide you, the bank, with a 90% loan guarantee, protection against loss on your loan to these exporters. Typical SBA guarantee is 50 or 75% for companies that do pure domestic transactions. But we do 90% for the exporters because we really, really want to incentivize the banks to stand behind those exporters and get the export working capital into their hands so they can do more deals. And we have the Export Express Working Capital, or the Export Working Capital Program, as well as the Export Express Program to do that. XM Bank also has a working capital loan guarantee program that has no upper limit. Our programs at SBA are limited to $5 million. And so there you see, then the third need is, okay, we've got some fixed asset needs now. We need a new piece of equipment to make it in metric or whatever it is that's adapted to this market. Or, you know what, we're just expanding because we're getting so much sales, and this is going to help us be more competitive as an exporter. Or we need to refinance some debt so we can get some better cash flow internally so we can do more export sales. All of those things are eligible under the international trade loan of SBA, which again provides a 90% guarantee for the bank. So the bank is getting a much better deal. They can offer more attractive terms to this company. With that 90% guarantee, they get a lot of benefits from having a higher percent guarantee as well. So you can kind of see the scheme of these loan guarantees on the left-hand side of the graph. International trade loans and Export Express provide things that make the competitive position of the company stronger. And then on the center and right side of the graph, you see working capital needs being met with the Export Working Capital Program. Again, Export Express for those smaller loans, and then XM getting into the game on loans up to infinity because they have no upper limit. So $5 million is where SBA caps out. XM can keep going with your customer as big as their export sales needs for export working capital. They can back them. So the question, so I want to throw this out. I mean, so this 90% guarantee is a real nice incentive for the lender. The question is, how much exporting does the company have to do to tap into that incentive so they can get the working capital financing they need and the fixed asset financing that they need? It turns out not that much under the SBA program. Essentially, all we need is a 12-month target that exporter has set. Whatever target it is, it doesn't matter what dollar, it doesn't have to be $1 million, it doesn't have to be more than 50% of their sales. It simply has to be, this is our target, and here's our plan of how we're going to hit it, regardless of what proportion of their sales that is. They then become an intentional exporter. That's part of their business model, and now they qualify for these 90% guarantees. Now they have a better chance to get financing, grow their business, grow their employment base, do all kinds of other good things for our economy. So this is a really powerful tool by identifying those companies that are exporters to get the financing they need through these enhanced loan guarantees that are only available to exporters. What do I mean by exporters? Okay, we were talking about manufacturers obviously fit into that category, but service exporters, as has been mentioned, is another type of exporter that qualifies. But also, indirect exports qualify under these programs, which is really interesting. So we talked about the fact that here in our region, we're in a big supply chain, supplying Boeing and some other big exporters. Well, if our customer's customer is an exporter, then that means our customer is an indirect exporter, and they can qualify for these 90% guarantees as well. So this is a great tool. If you can drill down into your customer's customer, figure out where they are, you may be able to use these 90% guarantees to get the bank to loosen up those purse strings and do a little more working capital, fixed asset financing to get that business really going. And then finally, international tourism is another category, and education that can also qualify for this. So where we're bringing in those foreign buyers to recreate here in the Northwest, those are exporters too, so we can use these 90% guarantees as well, just as long as the business has an export target, sales target, and a plan to reach it. So this is a great way to unlock more financing for our businesses. Many times, bankers are not necessarily tied into the relationship manager that's working with the company, may not necessarily be tied into the SBA division of the bank, who in turn may not be tied into the international trade division of the bank. So a role that I can help play where you're talking to a business that has this opportunity is many times I can play a role as kind of a midwife to introduce people even within an existing bank to make sure all these tools are really on the table as the business is facing whatever its financing needs are and having these discussions with their lender. So I'm always happy to be a resource for that.